Mr Speaker, I move that the Southland District Council, Stewart Island, Rakiura Visitor Levy Empowering Bill be now read a first time. Mr Speaker, at the appropriate time I shall be moving that this bill be considered by the Local Government and Environment Select Committee. It's something of a rare pleasure for me to be able to speak in the House today on this bill. Firstly, I don't have many opportunities to actually participate. It is indeed sad, Mr Robertson, and so this is something that I'm quite looking forward to for many reasons. Particularly, I'd like to refer to Stewart Island not just as a jewel in the crown of my electorate, but a jewel in the crown of New Zealand. It's a special and unique place. It has a lot of very unique and energetic and people who have a vision and an energy about the place. Stewart Island is indeed a unique place for its people as well as the environment it's in. It's also a place for which I've spent quite a considerable amount of my time on and off, and if I could just reflect for a moment that my earliest associations with Stewart Island were shooting deer and harvesting power, and so this bill really indicates the old phrase, a poacher turned gamekeeper, although I would assure the House that all of the power were oversized and within limits. But it is one other illustration I'd like to just give, that in the winter of 1968, as a mere slip of a lad, at a place called Moonlight Point on the Freshwater River, during the night I heard this odd thumping sound, and taking what some people would call a spotlight and I would call a strong torch, investigating where the sound came from, I discovered a most unusual parrot-like bird puffing himself up and booming. And I would have to say that outside of Dock, there would be very, very few people that could claim that they'd seen a kakapo booming. That was in the winter of 1968. And I raised that point because it's my expectation if another project that I'm involved in, which is removing all the predators from Stewart Island, it will be an opportunity that many people, not just New Zealanders, but international visitors as well, will be able to enjoy. And so the very reason for us considering this bill before the House, which is to enable the island community to be able to provide the infrastructure which is under stress because of the number of visitors that Stewart Island receives, will be greatly increased, that stress, that pressure, if in fact the vision I have for tourism, which includes a predator-free Stewart Island. However, to the bill, what does it do? Mr Speaker, the bill sets a platform and a process where levies can be charged to visitors so that infrastructural needs can be met. How would that happen? It's envisaged that transport operators to and from Stewart Island would charge a levy of, at this stage, not more than $5 per person, probably a little bit less, in order to provide those needs which the community is now struggling to provide. The needs I'm talking about, facilities like toilets, tracking, the sorts of infrastructural needs that tourists do bring. Why is this necessary on Stewart Island? The population of Stewart Island is just a little under 400. There are 451 ratepayers, which includes people with cribs or batches, plus some businesses as well. So it is totally impractical to expect a ratepayer base to provide these facilities. We have a population, I say, of less than 400 people. Visitor numbers around about 36,000 without children, and that's before the cruise ships discovered Stewart Island. Last year, I understand, there were 5 cruise ships arrived. So there is a need. Well, a question could be put. Why don't these good people just get on and do it? Well, I have to say I first suggested this process some 15 years ago, and at that stage there were 3 providers supplying transport to and from the island, and we're never able to get the 3 of them in one paddock. There are 2 currently, but if we don't legislate for this, then it provides a point of difference for a new transport provider to say, my point of difference is there will be no levy if you travel with me. And so that is one reason why we need to do it. The other reason is that there needs to be some consideration for the pressures of the cruise ships, and so to have something robustly placed in statute is something which I deem to be necessary. It also provides some transparency in that there will be a process laid down. The administrator of this will be the Southland District Council, and so there is transparency about how much money is collected, how it's spent. There is a process by which priorities for spending can be determined, and all of that sort of thing will be visible. So this won't be just an ad hoc arrangement, but we're putting in place something which will have a durability, a robustness and a transparency which will make it all work. I agonised for some time when I was talking with the Southland District Council how this might be actually future-proofed, and because I don't actually want to have to come back to the House in 10 years when, if there is increasing costs or need to adjust what the levy might be. And so thinking about Henry VIII clauses and having them get the thumbs down, there is a provision in the bill which actually allows the District Council to strike what that levy will be. Now, I understand that some members, this might be a somewhat new provision, and rather than vote against the bill on a technicality like that, I certainly want them to participate in the process which will take place through the Select Committee in order that we might actually, be able to work through any issues which are of concern. So firstly, I'm just saying to the House, consider the principle and I would like support on that basis. There is nothing unique in actually charging a visitor fee to a unique place. It does happen now in a variety of places in New Zealand, although very few are enshrined in legislation. It is also something which has quite significant international standards, and there's quite a list of places around the world where this particular facility is enshrined in law and is a part of the way of providing those necessary infrastructural needs. Stewart Island, people who live there have a range of pressures on them. They are isolated, they're an isolated community, so all of the cost of living necessities are much more expensive. There is no easy way to generate electricity, so there is a diesel generator on the island. The cost of electricity is 53.5 cents a unit, and so if members want to consider another reason why it would be extremely difficult to have ratepayers fund these particular costs, then they just need to consider the cost of actually living on Stewart Island. Stewart Island itself has been a population in decline. It essentially was a community that provided and processed job opportunities through fishing, and the process of fishing. There is only one fish processing place left on the island. There are some aquaculture farms, but these are now processed on the mainland. The people of Stewart Island have said, how can we have a future for our community? And they're looking very much at tourism, and I am holding here the Stewart Island tourism strategy, which is currently being considered and discussed. If in fact Stewart Island wants to increase its viability, it then increases its visitor numbers and it exacerbates the problem which it is now having difficulty funding. So that is why we actually need to have a process which, as I say, is robust and will provide the needs for these infrastructural situations. Mr Speaker, I commend this bill to the House for consideration. As I say, it has had a great deal of thought. A poll on Stewart Island has support. It has the support of the community. It has the support of the tourist operators currently. It also has the support of the Southland District Council. It has been in gestation for some years, more than a decade. And so we're at this point now where everybody has agreed it's something we want to do, and I invite members to support the bill and be involved in the process of the Select Committee.